Welcome to Beltalowda, the officially unofficial podcast for the Expanse on Amazon Prime. I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
And today we're talking about Season 5, Episode 4, titled Gaugamela? I don't know how to say this. And I
must have never watched Smurfs because, boy, this guy, I'm not sure why the episode's named after him. This guy gave those blue folks hell.
It's true.
Just never gave him a moment's peace. Him and that damn cat, I swear.
Yeah.
Let him. It must be a metaphor for how the Belters feel about the Inners.
Yeah.
Like Earth is Gaugamela. Yep. And and Mars is its cat. And it's just always tormenting them.
No, apparently Gaugamela is a battle that happened between Alexander the Great and the Persian leader of the time. And I don't know anything about it. And I was not about to dig into thousands of years of history to try and figure it out today. So, that's there if you want to go look it up. I don't know if you know more about it, but.
Yeah, I mean, you had like the great grandsire of Cyrus the Great, and a couple less great greats of Xerxes from the Spartan movie 300. Got his ass kicked on this battlefield by Alexander the Great, the up and coming. Does that mean Marco sees himself as kind of like Alexander the Great, this young conqueror that's going to essentially declare as sovereign space, all of space, everything that the atmosphere doesn't touch on the solar system is his?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. It's funny. There is a moment in the books where one of the characters sort of describes Marco as seeing himself that way. And it's meant to be like, well, that's how he sees himself. Is that true? I don't know. Is he comparable to Alexander the Great? That remains to be seen. But certainly he could think of himself that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, does this does it feel like a decisive battle? Like, I feel like Earth is by the end of this episode reeling, but yeah, it feels to me like a Pearl Harbor situation where you've done a lot of damage, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of anger and grief, but you haven't really. Although I guess they did decapitate the UN, like Nancy Gao, gone. Nancy gone. I didn't see that coming. Like this, we talked about like, how is Avasarala going to do from Luna and the shadows and this power vacuum. You wonder if she's going to be able to just step into it seamlessly. But yeah,
I don't know. There's so much confusion and chaos right now as to what's happening, where it comes from. By the end of this episode, they know very, very affirmatively exactly who's responsible. But during that time before this, they're scrambling. They don't know what's going on. So yeah, I can see like there's still a lot of question marks up in the air about the fate of Earth. Will it be able to recover? If so, will it be able to recover in time to stop the belt from essentially taking all of the worlds beyond the ring gate and claiming them for their own? Is that something you even want to see happen? Like, there's so many questions around not just what is going to happen, but what should happen, right? How do you feel about what should happen here? Do the Belters... this is obviously a terrible thing that Mark has done, launching rocks, killing millions of people with these rocks. Is it a fair trade for the oppression that Earth and Mars have been, putting over the Belters for the last few centuries?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I think it's fascinating to consider these concepts because, like, my answer is like, no,
sure.
you don't get to murder millions and millions of innocent people just because. But what I like about this show is it's not exactly sympathetic, because I don't feel like many people are going to be tempted to be like, oh, Marco's got a point. But you do think that like there is a point there, and essentially if you are the people that are doing the oppression, I guess it's like, am I being an oppressor? And if I am, how can I stop? And also, how do I behave in a way that if people like Marcos our inevitable process, their inevitable result of the process of this, dehumanization, this colonialization, this oppression, how do you behave in a manner that reduces them, from being likely, and to the extent they do rise, they don't have popular support because they're seen as crazy. I think that's something that, like, yeah, we should pay a lot of attention to, because yeah, Marcos isn't right, but people don't do horrific things like this just for no fucking reason, and it's also, that's the other thing. It's interesting. We've seen this in our own history in the United States, that like, it's often not the ones that are the worst off. It's not like the people that are literally being crushed under the heel. It's fairly wealthy, educated, worldly people who are sympathetic to those that then end up, throwing rocks at your world or planes at your skyscraper. And we have to figure out a way to keep these types of people from arising. And it seems like the best way to do that is like share the wealth, don't oppress people, give people democratic say in their living conditions and their working conditions. But that's what the Expanse is grappling with.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about much of like what we thought about the episode, because we got right into the political historical context. I was so excited to see Chad Coleman back as Fred Johnson, and I'm like, well, we're not going to get Jared Harris, but like, or maybe we're not going to get him, I should say.
Probably.
But like, man, I really like this guy. I really loved him in The Wire. I liked him on The Walking Dead. He's a really cool dude. I thought he crushed Fred Johnson. That's really how you live your life, isn't it? And then he gets killed this episode. Like, I really was stunned. We talked about how the first 3 episodes in the season were literally kind of moving things together, and there's this big kind of like gut punch waiting for Earth, and Avastroid's like, is she going to be able to figure it out? This episode just felt like one damn thing happening after another. I was literally reeling. The idea that, like, I don't really believe that Amos is dead, but like I said in the previous podcast, this show could do that. Like, I don't put it past him to kill major characters for important plot points. And the devastation of Earth is definitely one of those plot points that you could justify it.
Wrong place,
as
wrong
a book
time,
reader,
for sure.
as a book reader, what did you think? Did you feel like that this was about right when everything was going to be coming to an head, or?
Yeah, I mean, all these events pretty much happen in the book, in one way or another. Fred's death is very, very different in the book. Although this event still happens, he does not die in this moment. He's around for at least another book. So, yeah, that was a little surprising. No, he's dead.
No, he's okay, because Holden put closed his eyes, right?
Yeah, and they shot him out in a torpedo casing. Yeah, all of it. They gave him the Spock treatment. No, for sure. I mean, he's definitely dead. That scene says everything. But yeah, it just happens different in the book, and so I was surprised by that part of it, because it is such a big character, right? Like, I view Fred Johnson as like a big connecting piece for the entire belt, and that's just gone now, and I'm super interested to see where they take the belt from here. Is it just Marco with the entire support of all of the belt behind him? I'm not sure. I'm really not.
Yeah, and it seems like that. I don't know, because like that was my hope, that like between Fred and Dawes, they would be able to kind of find the middle path for the belt to be taken seriously as a great nation, and to get economic opportunities for the people, all that kind of. That's what I was really kind of rooting for. And now, like, the most reasonable, but maybe it's always a fool's hope to think that a Terran, an Earther, could be that, could be like that honest broker and like George Washington type figure for the belt. It might need to come from within, but in that case, like, who's going to step up and say and repudiate Marco? It has to be like you think it has to be the entire belt would have to take him. But how? Because we know he has these like powerful warships now.
Yeah, I think that story has always been one of a question of patience. If you look at everything that Fred Johnson has done, he's gotten the belt into positions of power, right? I mean, look at Medina Station. That is essentially
seats at the table,
the gateway to the universe for humanity. So he's getting there, but guys like Marco and a lot of belters, a lot of those factions are very impatient because they've been stepped on for generations. So like,
yeah,
it is a question of like, what kind of freedom do you want, and what cost are you willing to pay to get it as fast as you want it? It's a super, intricate plot. It's not just like, oh, the Belters want their freedom, and so all of them are on the same side. No, it's a mixed bag,
That's what's so interesting, because I remember watching these same stories on Star Trek The Next Generation, and they'd always have shitty, like, it'd be this morality play of like the establishment being like, we're just trying to keep law and order, and they're blowing up our dudes and they're blowing up our buildings and they're attacking. And then you'd finally get, Captain Picard or Riker, whoever would find the terrorist leader, and they would always be some weirdo with like Mad Max hair, and they got kind of like a crazy glint in their eye, and like, you understand how many people and it's always this like and at home you're supposed to sit on the couch and be like, look at Picard, and Picard gives this like, cockamamie speech about like, if you guys can just evolve past killing each other, maybe one day you can join the Federation, but this is all so primitive and barbaric. And like, I'd sitting on the couch, you're supposed to be like, oh, look at Picard, great statesman, boo terrorists. Also kind of boo the other guy because he's an asshole too.
Yeah.
But I feel like that this is a lot more nuanced, and it really feels a lot more realistic about like, yeah, I mean, I'm an Earther. I wouldn't want millions and millions of my fellow Terrans to die. But I also wouldn't want, hundreds of Belters to die a year because they don't have proper medical care, or you just decided not to pay for air scrubbers in this particular quadrant because the company was corrupt, or
all that ice they're hauling back, they didn't get enough of a share of it, and so now they don't have the water they need out there.
Or you have a destructive pissing match between Earth and Mars that destroys the bread belt of the bread belt of the belt, and now thousands are starving. The proto molecule, like they have gone through. I mean, they've gone through a lot of shit, and there's a real anger and a real injustice. And you see how callous and how non-serious Avasarala took this at the beginning of the series. Like how she thought she had the supreme moral high ground when she's torturing some Belter, with gravity and whatnot. And you see these attitudes over 100+ years, and what they turned into. And it's just like it's not even fiction. This is just filing the serial numbers off of history and repackaging it in space.
For sure.
So
that's why it works so well.
And why it feels so fucking timely, man. Yeah, I just show's so good.
And there are just a lot of really cool moments in here. Like one of the coolest things in the whole episode is that spider bot that comes in to crack Fred's safe out of the wall or the floor.
Yeah, crack the wall, jaw out of a skull. I don't. How fucked up is he going to be taking that 5-ton bench press punch to the face?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be robo punched for sure.
No.
No. But that was super cool. All right, let's get into the episode recap. We start off with Alex and Bobby following the Bar Keith in what is now the Screaming Firehawk. I love how they change the subtitle there, or the caption from the what was the Razorback to the Screaming Firehawk.
Razorback. Yeah,
very cool.
Is this this is like a in-universe joke, because that's what Alex wanted to call the Rocinante at first. And also was the unofficial nickname for the fan campaign to save the Expanse. And I know Cass Anvar was kind of like in the center of that, or towards the center, and I imagine this would have been an even cooler moment had it not been for the whole disgraceful conduct, casting a little bit of pall on the old Screaming Firehawks, but maybe not. Maybe that's the fans. It has nothing. It's don't let Anvar's bullshit ruin it for you. If that's something you take pride in that label, don't let someone ruin it for you. But still, it's a bummer.
I think it's still cool. So Alex is bothered that Bobby isn't bothered by the Martian betrayal and the tearing down of Mars here. Bobby tells him the story of her pet rat dying as advice on how to deal with Mars's death. The ships they're following begin to move off course, and then they get an emergency alert and see the news of the devastating attack on Earth.
I like this because we talked about how Alex kind of has to go through in high speed what Bobby's been dealing with. I don't even know what the timeline is here. Are we like 6 months to a year past where we were post-election.
Could be. I thought
Seems like we're well in the Gao regime era. This isn't like, inauguration stuff. Like she's got everything spun up. She's going on missions and whatnot. So
yeah, in the book it's like 6 months or so is how long the work on the Rossi's going to take.
Okay.
And if they can get that thing out of dry dock in any real way, it's got to be a few months at least.
And there was like 11 to 9 months of travel time from Illis back to the gate, and from probably the gate to Tycho Station. So
not wrong about that.
All that. That's what it felt like, because also it'd take a long time for Bobby to build up that operation. Her boss's family is 2 weeks away from their colony ship, and we know there's transit time for that. So there's a lot of it. But he, she's had some time to process it. She's had time to build that coffin. By the way, did Bobby just confess to burying her rat alive in the Martian soil? Like, she didn't say that she waited for the rat to die. She said that she cried her. She said she cried her eyes out until she got tired of doing it, and then put it in a box just so, not for the rat, but for her. And I'm like, okay,
I don't think that's not alive. No,
that's not entirely inconsistent with my conceptualization of Bobby, but kind of fucking cold. Kind of fucking cold to do your tumor-ridden rat that way, Bobby.
Also, I don't unless you have like little rat spacesuits. I don't know how you bury a rat alive in the Martian soil. I guess you could bury it in a sealed box with atmosphere in it, but like
you have a miniature rat-sized environmental unit like what the Monica had in her shipping container. It's the same thing, just scaled down for a rat.
Sure.
Maybe she buried in a box full of that liquid, breathable atmosphere from the abyss.
Okay, there you go.
The hydrofluorocarbons or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, enough rat bullshit aside. I thought it's interesting that Alex said, he gets this really thoughtful look on his face and says something to the effect of, like, he starts thinking about his son and how, like, he's going to have trouble processing, the death of Mars, and how he hopes he had someone to talk him through that. And it got my wheels spinning, like, does Alex die before the series is over? Because, like, it felt like foreshadowing, because the camera kind of panned significantly to Bobby's face. Like, is she literally going to have to play that role? Or is it more of Alex thinking, I need to repair my relationship with my son because he's going to need somebody. He's going to need some kind of life raft or something to help him process that. I need to start taking that shit seriously. I don't know.
I mean, I assume he thinks he could die at any moment, given the danger that he's been in throughout this series and the danger that he's still constantly in. Like, I mean, last episode he was drugged and kidnapped and, beaten for information. He's doing some dangerous shit. I assume he could think he might not be around long.
Plus, just being out in the black, it's a dangerous place. The other thing we found out in this that I didn't expect is that there was a coordinated attack on the Martian Parliament, some kind of bombing that happened exactly the same time, or very close to the same time that the asteroid impacted Earth. So really, all the well Wallas getting sorted out this episode by Marco.
Yeah, and the news is, asking questions about, is this all connected? They give a number for, like, how large the explosion, or how much energy was in the rock hitting Earth, and it's 200 to 300 kilotons, which is a very big explosion.
But not in the megaton range, because that's what I thought that someone said that it could be like between 5 and 10 megatons, which is a truly horrific explosion. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's not quite there.
Yeah, but still, damn.
Yeah, I don't know. I like this scene a lot because, especially how it ends, because this scene is, Alex grappling with the loss of Mars and beginning that grieving process. And then he's hit with the news that Earth is also under attack, right? He might also lose Earth. And it's not like Alex cares that much about Earth, but now you're talking about, like, the entirety of the human civilization under attack right now. It's a scary thing, and they do that 1-2 punch a couple of times in the show, which I really appreciate.
Plus, it's just if you hear that tomorrow Russia got nuked and like 10 million Russian citizens are dead, number one, just your humanity, the scale of that atrocity would whether you're intellectually opposed, against, whatever, the Russian people and their government, whatever, it'd just be like, Jesus Christ, oh my God. Also, what's going to happen next? That's such a huge destabilizing event, you know, like look at, you know, some countries lose a couple thousand people and go and lose their mind and go on a rampage. Like, what do you do when there's 10 million of your citizens dead? Like, it's just, you know, like I thought that was one of the coolest parts of the episodes, is just seeing kind of everyone process what this means in real time, like the different reactions, the civilians, the leaders' reactions. It's all because this literally changes everything. And it's going to make life difficult at best for everyone trying to make a living out here in space.
And I being alive in 2001, I know exactly how it feels, that 1-2 punch of like something bad has happened. Okay, it's bad. It's not like affecting me personally a ton right now. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing happens and you're like, oh shit, what is actually going on here? How big is this going to get? Now I'm starting to get concerned sitting in Indianapolis watching something in New York happening. So like, I felt that viscerally when all these characters are getting these 1-2 punches, like Naomi at the end. I understood that.
And you just feel like, you know, like a page of history is being turned, and it's momentous, above and beyond everything that's just happening. It's just like, it's wild. I thought they captured that really well.
All right, then Amos goes to see someone in prison. Well, we're about to find out who it is. I don't know why I'm being coy. They take his jacket and his personal items and lead him to the pit, which is an area of the prison designed for body-modded prisoners. And there he meets with Clarissa Mao. They talk about the events on Illis. She's on blocker drugs to keep her mods from going active, and is living a pretty miserable existence by her account. Amos explains that he's here to help her, though she doesn't think she can really be helped. And then an alarm goes off, the ceiling cracks, and the power goes out. What was your reaction when you found out who he was going to see on this planet?
I thought this is going to be a character beat, like for Amos, that he's going to visit her and she's going to tell him something, or her state is going to be so wretched that it's going to be one of those instances where he saves somebody on Earth and he's not going to be able to save somebody on Earth, and then those experiences are going to change him in some way. Then when the rock started hitting and the lights went out, I'm like, oh, this is actually going to turn into a set piece. But like, where does it go? Is everyone going to be plausibly in going to be killed, and Melba's going to sneak aboard? Not Melba. I guess it's her old cover name. That's how she got the name Peaches, by the way. If you forgot, is she going to be able to like stow away with the Rocinante? Is Holden going to be on board with that? Like what? Where does this go? What is that? Is she going to be on board with that? Like it's a crazy situation. I had no, like, is this happens in the book?
Yeah. Amos's stuff 100% from the book so far.
Yeah. I that was a giant surprise for me. I was shocked that that's who he was visiting. I guess I was expecting, someone we'd never met before, someone from his past. Sure. And then when she showed up, I'm like, oh, well, it's going to be some kind of stepping stone to character development. And now it seems like he's stuck there for at least some time. And in a situation where it's like I can kind of squint and see, all right, there's a way out of this where she's declared dead on Earth. And, you know, the Rocinante's got all kinds of connections, all kinds of like probably dirty paperwork guys, and get her a fake basic card and all. I don't know. But to what end? Why is that interesting? You know? James Holden's former attempted murderer is going to be serving with them on the crew. Like what the fuck? I don't know.
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember feeling that they didn't set it up nearly as well in the book as they did in the show. Because here I sort of there's at least a connection between those two. I don't remember that being in the book, and maybe I'm forgetting it. But yeah, I was a little surprised when I read that, you know, Amos was going to meet Claire, because I didn't see the value in it either. They're clearly here drawing some parallels between Claire and Amos, right? They've both done bad things. they both have had to come to terms with the things that they've done to, well, in Amos's case to survive, but in Claire's case, she just did some bad shit because she wanted to do some bad shit, essentially.
Yeah, she let herself get all twisted up and in denial about the monstrous nature of her father's crimes, essentially.
And I think that's what she means when she says, you know, not every stain can come out. Like, this is something she thinks she deserves.
And she killed a lot of people.
Yeah,
it's pretty. Yeah,
yeah. People who didn't need to die. People who weren't necessarily bad people. Like, there's.
And I get it. Amos has killed a lot of people, and I think that's one that's it's like a statement on the churn, right? That like he's a little bit higher in the churn column than her, and she might be sinking to the very bottom. But
and he mostly kills people who have it coming in one way or another. But yeah, I don't know. They're probably
since
doing
he's rolling with
that.
Holden. I don't think that's always been the case, though. I feel like Amos does what he's told.
Oh, you're right.
I don't know.
Back
yeah, he definitely
Baltimore.
had lines he wouldn't cross, right? Even back in Baltimore, because that's what he said to was it Charles about like I thought that was a great line. Well, you can't judge what people do to make rent, and Amos like, oh, you absolutely can.
Yeah.
You know.
Is that an attitude
he's
he's
adopted
child
sex slave?
Now,
yeah, I think
or is that an attitude he had adopted years ago back in Baltimore?
I feel like that's the thing. Like, if you buy the relationship with his adopted mother, you have to think that there was some, like, as much as people call him a psychopath and a sociopath, you have to think that he had that moral code. Maybe he didn't always stay true to it because, knowing better doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to do better.
Sure.
Especially if you're as traumatized as a guy as Amos. But, like, yeah, I guess that's my opinion is that I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of an Amos fanboy, but I always thought it was a little bit overblown, all the talk of him being a psychopath and all that. Like, or a sociopath.
And he makes a point here that it's not just her fault for the things she's done, though I would argue she bears the brunt of it. It's also the world's fault, for making her that way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not entirely also wrong, but, doesn't absolve her sins either, right?
It's also one of those things where it really recalibrates what I think of Earth, because this is not what I would call justice. Like keeping someone confined like this essentially the rest of their life. And I also thought it was really weird where like just solitary confinement can drive a person crazy. She's been going through this for maybe a year, but probably longer, honestly, is before they went out to Illis. So several years, and she just seems kind of like tired and dopey. But like the idea that you just keep a person in like a 3x3 cube and just have them drugged up all the time, it's a commentary on solitary confinement, but it's a little. They got this term in Warhammer 40K, grimdark, which is like this idea that the world doesn't value human life and that's fucked up, and that's part of the things you like about it. But then there's an informal term called grim derp, which is where they go pile on the darkness so much that it becomes like a self-parody. And that's what I felt about Melba in this like little cage strapped to this chair, kept doped up. Like, does really, this is I don't know. I don't, it felt weird that, and some people would volunteer to be down here. Like, why? Yeah.
Well, that's
why
the thing. Like at this point, that's her living her best life, because the other option is she get these implants taken out with a surgery that ruins her.
Yeah. I don't know. That's the thing, is like maybe they make that make more a lot of times when some of those questions I have when I read the books, it makes a little bit more sense, because now I'm thinking like that wasn't like she did that like on the black market. She didn't go to like a high priced plastic surgeon to have it done nice and neat. This kind of been like a back alley body modification that is very hard to undo. But damn, it just seems like such a terrible place to be that it makes you feel bad about Earth, like.
Sure.
We in 400 years in the future, this is the way we treat criminals. We haven't figured out a better way. Holy shit.
All right. Let's move on to Avasarala. Avasarala? I don't know how the book
they say her in the
say
show.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Avasarala. She's trying to get a hold of the higher powers there, the UNN, to warn them that they're under attack, when Delgado tells her that another rock has hit, and she tries to call Gao on UN1, and I don't know how far into this you want to go. We then head over to Gao. She's getting this update on the asteroid action. She refuses to go to Luna for safety as she deals with this crisis, and then Avasarala no one's picking up the phone up on UN1, and so she gets a hold of the chef that still, I guess, hasn't blocked her number yet, and has him bring a data pad to Gao, sit it down in front of her, and finally gets a message to her, says, look, this is an attack. Gao seems very receptive to some advice at this moment, and Avasarala tells her, hey, the watchtower can detect these things. They're stealth rocks with Martian tech. Point it over there, link all this sentinel system to the watchtowers. So she does it. She thanks Avasarala, and then there's this another attack, another rock hits, and it just obliterates UN1.
Yeah. So that's 3 rocks that hit now. One on the coast of Africa, one in north of Philly. And then they said that she was in Southeast Asia. So something over there in like maybe the Indian Ocean or whatever. What luck, that you took out you essentially decapitate the entire UN government. With all these kind of more or less, I imagine random. There's no way that they could. Maybe they can with sophisticated orbital analysis. You can like determine exactly where these things are going to hit and when.
But where will Gao be in any moment? I mean, I guess
that's the thing. She was just off on some junket,
but maybe they knew about that.
But I mean, maybe the Philadelphia one was supposed to destroy the UN headquarters, or at least disrupt it. I
imagine you have to plan slamming Earth with rocks pretty far in advance. It probably takes a while to launch a rocket Earth. Sure.
But that's I just thought that I admire her for not wanting to leave. That's like the impulse. But on the other hand, like, is low Earth orbit really leaving the planet? Have you abandoned Earth if you're in low Earth orbit and you're also out of reach of just atmospheric turbulence slapping your plane down? Mm-hmm. But it's a great scene. This is some of my favorite stuff. Like I remember there's a plot a lot like this in the Tom Clancy Jack Ryan series, not the TV but the books, where Jack Ryan's pissed off the president so much that none of they got a 3 seconds to midnight situation from the Soviet premiere. They're all about to launch nukes, and Jack Ryan can't get into the room with the evidence that it's all a terrorist misunderstanding plot.
Damn.
And just the frustration. I thought they might make more of a meal of it, honestly, because it seems like she just went right to the chef. That's clever, by the way. And hopefully it works out and that guy doesn't end up signed to one of the pits. The poor chef, the poor macaron chef.
Oh, he's done. He's gone, dead, man.
Oh God, you're right. Jesus.
Yeah.
Unless he's got
some kind of real good golden parachute. I doubt it.
Yeah, he's like Steven Seagal in Under Siege. He's actually a former Navy SEAL. He was able to get into an escape pod in a split second, and he's going to vow revenge. But yeah, and I also thought, like, I was reeling by this point in the episode, like, holy shit. My first question is, are they going to get the things tasked, or is this going to like be the thing? This is going to be it. Earth is just going to take hit after hit after hit. I'm actually kind of amazed that they got that order relayed, because it was like 10 seconds later.
Yeah, it was quick.
That she got wiped off the face of the Earth. Damn.
She's in an emergency situation. They have good response times when shit like this is going on.
Yes, that's true.
And the Secretary General says, jump, you jump.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about the defense of planet Earth.
Yeah, I mean, she's certainly dead, right? There's no chance that like Gao's going to come back. Her plane came apart.
No, and like I said, like it'd be one thing if it was something like Air Force One, where you saw like Secret Service hustling her towards some kind of armored pod in the center, but she was just standing in a conference room. Mm-hmm. Nah, there's no fucking way. She's dead.
Okay, cool.
Maybe the chef, maybe the ex-Navy SEAL, the Terran Marine SEAL chef is going to get out, but that's it.
Anything else you want to talk about with these 3 scenes, or?
I don't think so. It's good stuff.
So then we go over to Holden and Fred watching this container that the Zamia is going to be picking up, while Bull and his guys are hiding inside. There's some kind of disturbance on Tycho Station, and Monica sees the devastation on Earth happening on the news. Holden detects a trap and tells everyone to get out. but then the trap springs. Sakai shoots Fred in the back. She runs off. She's joined by a couple other Belters. They leave on a shuttle. Tycho Station gets hit with a drop pod, and Fred tells Holden as he's bleeding out that the protomolecule sample is in his quarters and to stop them from getting it. So Holden goes after it, and Fred is moved to another part of the station with gravity.
This is another one where like I'm just reeling because I was already processing like, oh my God, Bull might get killed here. Oh God, Fred's bleeding. What the shit's going on here?
Yeah.
And then, you know, you start to get the sick feeling when the Zamea starts doing something weird, and then there's an attack on the reactor control room, and it's like, oh God, this is, and it just turns into this shit show.
Yeah.
And the fact that so much of Fred's team, you know, we knew is an inside job, how much of his personal security detail is in on it. And I got to say, like you mentioned this last episode, the last 3 episodes, but they was one of the most ultimate in gravity optional filming. This establishing shot of like going down and you see someone like eating their lunch, what you think is on the floor, but then the camera twists and someone's walking below her. And it's like, I really love how they continue to push. Like, I feel like, and maybe it's even the truth, I feel like almost every single thing I've complained about in the previous 4 seasons, and it's always been minor, like, hey, you guys do a really good job, but I wish you'd tighten up X, Y, and Z. Like, I really feel like they're really doing that, and it's like just the little stuff, like Avasarala pouring the booze in low Martian gravity, and the idea that up and down and side to side are like kind of relative concepts in space. It really is selling it. It's so much more immersive than in previous seasons.
Yeah, for sure. I'll do a little non-spoiler thing here. I've seen another episode, and they have a moment in there that I have been specifically wanting to see them do some effects work on, and they do it, and I'm super happy to see that. So yeah, they're making an effort here, and like you said, this is like completely superfluous, right? They don't have to do this establishing shot with the spinning hallway and all that. It does, I guess, help to let you know what part of the station they're in, because there are parts of the station that do have gravity.
Yeah,
which is why they say get Fred to a place with gravity.
Because if you didn't know the clouds of blood floating around him, that's happening in 0G. Yeah.
Right, and we saw what happens in 0G with internal bleeding in previous seasons, right? In the spin the drum, that whole thing.
Yeah.
So it really just makes it feel more immersive, and they don't have to do it, but they do, and it feels better.
And it works so much because, like, in previous seasons, they'd always, when there'd be a 0G centric scene, they'd always nail it. But then, like, most of the time when people are still under 0G, the actors would not sell that in their performance, and it always kind of took me out of the moment. Like, hey guys, just because, you know, it's not just when the blue screens are out and you guys are in wire harnesses that you're actually weightless. And now, like, I feel like people, just a little stuff, like people getting shot and dying in their boots and going limp, like they do just a better job of that kind of acting.
The person I feel worst for, like, okay, yeah, Fred gets shot, and then Bull almost gets blown up, but the person I feel worst for is Monica. Because Monica's seeing this stuff happening on the news, and she is missing the biggest story in the system right now. It's happening on Earth. She's not there to report it. Maybe she's on to something bigger. I don't know, with the protomolecule stuff, but we'll see.
I mean, that seems like it's pretty, like it's a multi-front war. I will say that, like, I lost a little bit of respect for Fred, because I really didn't think he was stupid enough to keep the protomolecule on Tycho. Maybe because they always make it seem like Tycho's the safest place to be because they donate so much money to both Mars and Earth that anyone that dare attack them would have the wrath of God coming down. But unfortunately, when people stop being afraid of that might of Earth and Mars, you know, you're just a giant sitting duck. So I was thinking that they would be on some kind of secret asteroid research station or something like that. Just being in your office, man. Did he have like just the luggage code of 1, 2, 3, 4 locking the safe? Like, what? Come on, how lazy can you be to keep this stuff that close to you? But
keep your friends close and your proto-molecule samples closer.
It just doesn't seem like anyone saw this giant change in, like Marco said, he's no longer dreaming small. Like, he's not going to do terrorist attacks against his own people. He's going to do big, decisive ones against inners. And no one saw that kind of coming. No one saw the belt just throwing caution to the wind and taking on Earth and Mars and their proxies, like to Tycho Station, head on. But by God, he did, and it's bad news.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the book, this same attack happens, and Holden and Fred are talking about it before it happens. Holden's got a wind of maybe some kind of mole, something going on the station, and they're talking about the possibility of that. And Fred talks about how he is well aware that not everybody is 100% loyal to him, but that he sort of has backup plans on top of backup plans. And this made him look like he didn't really have much of a plan. And so I was also a little bit disappointed in Fred's strategic sense in this episode.
Yeah, well, it's like the great philosopher Michael Tyson once said, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. So maybe Fred did have his plans, but they didn't account for torpedoes through the hangar bay and, drop pods and spider bots, all that kind of shit.
Yeah, let's talk about the spider bots.
Speaking of sick, before we get to there, speaking of sick anti-gravity, Holden snatching the gun floating out of air, I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah. A lot of little moments.
I would like to get the Blu-rays to see how they actually pulled that off, because it looked like a physical gun, but it was spinning realistically. I thought it was pretty amazing.
Okay, so Spider-Bot time. A Spider-Bot enters Fred's quarters and grabs his safe. Security's not responding, so Holden busts into Fred's quarters and tries to stop the robot before getting robo-punched by it. They escape with the sample. And Holden and Monica barely escape with their lives, capturing Sakai in the process. The real hero in this scene, the real hero of the day, is Monica. Well, other than Spider-Bot.
Yeah, for sure.
Monica saves Holden's life 2 times in as many minutes. Mm-hmm. It's kind of incredible.
Really brings the pain. And I actually like the spider bot, the way, I'm anthropomorphizing it, but like the way it like holds the protomolecule over its head and like triumphant. It's like
I got it, guys.
Link and Zelda. Da 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 da. And then the way it like shifts it to walk through a door, like ultra precise. It's something about that. Just I thought there's something kind of funny in this just workman-like way this robot goes about its business.
And I love the battle between the bot and Holden. Like everybody's shooting it. And I love how invulnerable it is to gunfire, because it would be, right? Like, you're not going to shoot this thing. There's no exposed hoses that you can spring a leak in or something.
It'd be like shooting a bulldozer. I know that there are weak points on a bulldozer. You might be able to disable its hydraulics or whatever, but good luck keeping it from rolling, man. With small arms fire.
And that's the thing. Like a bulldozer, you roughly know, okay, it's got wheels and it's got, where do you shoot a spider bot to disable it? Like, where's the circuitry that I can break a chip on that will actually cause it to stop moving? Nowhere.
If it's a video game, it would have a flashing red piece that I know is the weak point. But in real life, you just, and I like that Holden's just kind of like just trying to methodically break it down. Like, well, this isn't happening. I'm going to try to, go medieval on it, get a spear and jam it into some of its works, which I actually thought it might work.
It does until
for like
gets
a split
punched,
second. Like a spider punch. The big question I have, though, and we talked about this last episode, who the fuck wants Monica and why? Why is she so damn important to Sakai? What's her name? Yeah. Sakai. Why is she so important that they're going to take her alive yet again? Take the time to put her in a suit? Because if I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it was never the plan to get her, but then why keep her alive in that crate? I
know that it absolutely is. Now this has happened twice. Like, there is something about, and I had this crazy theory. It's like, what do we know about blind guy with the finger implants? Is he like Marco's number 2? And he's this is like pulling some like really deep state strings or something. I don't know, because it just doesn't make sense. She's just a reporter.
Agreed. Yeah.
Kind of a high profile reporter, but I'm
trying to think of her connections. She's connected to Holden in a weird way. Holden's connected to Naomi. Naomi is connected to Marco. I don't know, man. I have tons of questions about that.
My only thing is she's got like this reputation as like a truth deal, like from all of her experiences reporting on the sides and how she was in that radio free ring zone state and like, one of the early voices in the ring station. Like maybe she's got this like Walter Cronkite-esque reputation that if Marco thinks he can get her and like issue press statements that it will come have some gravitas. Cause he seems like he's pretty politically smart.
Maybe.
But I don't see it. But I mean, that's the only thing. I really don't see it.
Sending out his own broadcast by the end of this episode. I don't know what value he would see in her, but
yeah,
maybe you're onto something. A little Easter egg here with this spider bot before we totally leave this scene. Did you notice that it's created by Savage Industries?
Is that an Adam Savage?
Which is Adam Savage's, little...
As soon as because I wrote it down, even Savage, I was like, because it's like in the style of the Stark Industries, and I thought they were having some kind of fun like that, like a made-up fictional, but like, of course, Adam Savage, who famously died in the Arbogast disaster, pre-Ringgate, they memorialized him. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Speaking of memorializing people, Fred's dead, baby. Fred is dead. They close his eyes and everything. Like I said, they don't quite shoot him out in the torpedo casing.
Yeah,
they might as well have. And like I said earlier, it's shocking to me that he's dead at this point because I thought he still had stuff to do in this show. But
especially since like in this show, like with the medical technology, I just figured that I've seen plenty of main characters shot into stuff, and they get into gravity, they slap the arm cuff on them, they're going to be fine. You can regrow fingers, you can do all this stuff. Like if they can get him stabilized, and then when he just kind of bled out, I wasn't prepared for it. I needed a moment.
I guess the thing we have to remember is that they are under siege at this moment, right? And that they don't have a lot of loyal resources on the station. So maybe it's hard to even tell who you can trust as far as patching Fred up, but also they're not on a Martian gunship that has like excellently equipped medical facilities. They're out on a Belter station, essentially.
That's true.
It's like one of the best Belter stations, but
you'd still think like, because we've seen like the kind of trauma you can get just mining ice, limbs getting ripped off and decompression, all that. You'd think they would have a pretty well-equipped trauma center. Like, maybe not like on a gunboat of the Martian Navy, but something that could save you. You're right. But he also got shot like half a dozen times right in the chest. That's pretty bad.
For sure. And they didn't, I guess, want to shoot him in the head so we wouldn't know in that scene that he was actually dead. But if they had shot him in the head, I would have been like, okay, done.
Yeah. And Sakai, like the bitterness and hate that she's just, giving holding the good guy discount to like, too bad, so sad, you all lose.
I hated her so much in that moment, but
I know. But that's what happens. And the other thing is when he dies, like, Holden gets this dreamy stare into the distance and says, we must finish the work that he started. I think that's interesting because before Holden kind of was a free agent, tried to stay kind of like pox on everyone's houses. Everyone's full of shit. Everyone's kind of corrupt. Like I can work with these, but like, I wonder if he's going to take a little bit more of a side. But I don't know. It's pretty easy to side against Marco, like it's pretty beyond the pale launching asteroids at people and murdering people in cold blood and taking an entire system hostage with protomolecule. It's like,
but this is super interesting in the context of Holden, what he means to this system, right? Like he's the hero of Eros. Like he's got this reputation for not picking sides, and so if he goes up against Marco here, you're going to have a large portion at least of the belt that is going to turn on him. And if they haven't already, there's his reputation in the system is very interesting and intricate.
It's like it's like a Che Guevara, only everybody sees him as that kind of like outside rebel, truth teller, speaking truth to power, resisting.
And stepping into Fred's shoes has the potential to change that in a lot of people's eyes. In Earther's eyes, in Belter's eyes. Martians probably aren't going to give a shit very much, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing when we're talking about, like, we're eulogizing Fred Johnson because we like Fred and he's made a lot of changes. But, a lot of belters, he's going to be the Butcher of Anderson station, and
always has been.
no tears will be shed.
Yeah, he's an inner.
And that's just a fact of life, whether you deserve it or not. Your actions kind of follow you around.
So Avasarala tries to contact Arjun, but she's getting no response. No one is sure who's in charge at this point, but the watchtowers are looking out for more rocks. Delgado apologizes for not fighting hard enough to back her up when they thought it was an attack, and he invites her to accompany him to a bar where everyone else is trying to deal with the news. At that bar, they get a call about another rock that the watchtowers picked up, and they all watch out the window as that rock is destroyed, thankfully, by planetary defenses.
Pop, pop. I don't know what that purple shit they shot at it, but it sure did the trick on the asteroid.
Yeah.
Damn, it just erased it.
That's the Sentinel system.
Yeah, it must be.
Defends Earth.
Protects against rocks. And it's cool that you can watch that happen from Luna, I guess, too.
Sure. Yeah, they were in the right position to do that, I guess. They do something here that is really cool with the visuals. Actually, they did it at the beginning of the episode too. They show us the watchtower, but it's in this profile and it's against the inky blackness of space or the star field, and you can't even see it at first. It's just like it's another black blob, like everything, right? And then they spin the camera around and you see, oh, this is a dish of some kind. They do that at the beginning too with the Razorback or Screaming Firehawk, where they just kind of show a shot of space and you're like, what am I looking at here? And then this pinpoint of light that is the pinnace comes flying into frame, and you're like, oh, God, I didn't even see that until it was on me. It really gives you that feeling of the vastness of space and just how small everybody is in it.
It does. Yeah, the way they shoot space is a lot like how they shoot the ocean in like the Master and Commander film, where it's like you really get the idea of it is this scary thing that you really have very little control of, and things hide in it, and there be dragons and whatnot. And they play a lot, or they're playing a lot with that. This cat and mouse games you can play. That's essentially, broadly speaking, what the Razorback is doing. I think it's all really fascinating. And it does feel like Age of Sail combined with submarine technology
for sure. Yeah.
I think that shit's fascinating.
Avasarala, what Nancy Gao said to her is coming true here. She does save a bunch of lives, probably millions of lives, by catching this rock.
There was at least 7 more coming, right?
We saw at least 8, probably 9, I think was the number.
I thought it was 9 when I counted the numbers, because I watched the episode a third time after we covered it, just because when they came out, the thing about the screeners, resolution not as good as the release copy,
and no subtitles.
It's always cool, and no subtitles, so it's always cool to go back and watch it in full crystal HD.
Yeah, for sure. So then Naomi is taken to Marco's ship. They spar with words for a little while. Marcus then says that Philip brought her here, not him. And Marco shows her what he's done to Earth. He claims that the Belters are free now and has her taken to her quarters after welcoming her home. And then he sends out this broadcast proclaiming he's the commander of the Belter Free Navy, which now has the protomolecule, and that he's rebooting humanity without corruption, greed, or hatred. And I had to pause here because I was laughing so hard. And that the belt is now free. Yep.
He's going to, essentially, hey, we're not saying you guys can't exist. You just can't leave your atmospheric containment. You're going to it's big words. I do question like how many ships he has. Can he really stand against the full might of both Mars and Earth? Because, man, this is like, it's a fine line from being like the most wanted terrorist in the world or the solar system and being the most dead one. Because, sure. We've seen with our terrorists, like they can do a big attack, but then it's essentially hiding in caves for 1 to 10 years until inevitably someone finds you and kills you. Like you make one fucking mistake in your signal security or your movement patterns, and you're going to die. And that's if you have sovereign nations kind of assisting you and helping you out and all that stuff. Like Yeah, I don't know. I mean, space, it's a big place, especially now you got
Right.
1,000 systems to flee to, but like, it's one thing to make this claim, it's another to hold it. And I wonder if he has another trick up his sleeve along the lines of stealth asteroids that we don't even know about. I guess the protomolecule, that's the ultimate thing. If you fuck, like, yeah, I don't have the Navy to take you on, but if you fuck with me, I'm launching a protomolecule at both your planets.
Right.
It's a,
Yeah, you think
it's a
rocks are
James
bad?
Bond, it's a James Bond villain plot, essentially, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so what do you do? What do you do? Because we saw last season Avasarala trying to do a decapitation strike that goes horribly wrong. Well, this time you do that shit, and it's not just a PR disaster, it's an ecological disaster. It's potentially the end of your homeworld. Fuck.
Yeah, I don't know. Big questions raised in these first 4 episodes about the future of the system here. I think book readers, I know I certainly was happy to see it. This is the introduction of the Pella, which is Marco's flagship, the flagship of the Free Navy, and the ship that he kind of considers his own personal one. Although he says, I have many ships. I love this. This is such a good scene between Marco and Naomi, and Philip gets pulled into it by the end. It shows you the dynamic influencer, let's say, and he's Marco's obviously on Instagram, but he's also starting up his TikTok account next week, so look for that. But he's a very dynamic influencer. When he speaks with people, he's able to get, I don't know, use subtle language and subtle conversational cues and emotional cues to dig at people and put them on their back foot. Like when he's talking to Naomi, she mentions like, oh, warships are not the way to do this, and he's like, oh, funny coming from someone who has her own warship.
Right.
And then the way he like demeans or infantilizes Philip during this conversation, there's a moment, I can't remember what he says, but he makes him sound like a little boy.
Yeah, I thought my son was a man, but apparently he's a boy that needs his mama.
Right. And then he goes on, who can blame him for that, right? He has this way of like pointing things out that are very insulting and then couching them in language that makes you feel like maybe he didn't mean to hurt me here. It's just
right.
It's so subtle, and this is what they do with Marco in the book that makes him such a good villain. Is he's able to manipulate people almost effortlessly.
He's a master manipulator. Yeah.
Yeah.
My ears picked up because I didn't catch the name of his ship. It's the Pella. That's the capital city of ancient Macedonia, birthplace of Alexander the Great.
All right.
So
there you go.
He definitely has some Ozymandias inclinations to him. He thinks a lot of himself.
It all comes full circle.
Yeah.
I guess, we talked about the protomolecule and how that's going to go down and what a threat that could be. This, having read through the end of book 6, is all I know about the protomolecule. That it is out there and that the Free Navy has it. They have not dealt with that as best I can tell yet. So I am looking forward to see what they do with the protomolecule.
It could just, like I said, it could just be a geopolitical, or what's the aeropolitical, trump card. It could be nothing, because, like, honestly, that's what the protomolecule has been for most of the show's existence. Yeah,
it's been a plot mover though. Like,
it definitely, but a lot of MacGuffins are, like it's. But I mean, that's damning it with faint praise to call it a MacGuffin. Like it opened up the stars to humanity. It almost killed Earth. But still, it's one of those things where it's like no party controls it. It's got its own unfathomable interest. It kind of does its own thing. Everybody tries to possess it and control it, but so it's fine. It's fine in that role, because the thing is, if you use it, like, what's that look like? You launch out at Earth, it hits Earth and takes Earth out, or you stop it. It's not as interesting as the possibility of it being out there. Because there's only so many things you can do with it.
Yeah, I guess, like, if you want to go real crazy with it, I wonder if Marco could have like a plan to fire the protomolecule, because I think about the protomolecule as getting out of hand very quickly. Like it lands on Venus, and then this thing comes out of it and opens a gate to who knows where. Like,
it reaches out, and what it does when it reaches out is not up to you. It is really not up to you.
Absolutely. I wonder if there's any way, and I don't even know if this would be a true safety net here, but if Marco wants to fire this thing at Earth and then destroy the ring gate somehow, try and destroy Medina Station, and the just close down the gate, because they've done that. They've tried to do that before, right? Last season they tried to close the gate. Or
why would he want? Because it seems like he wants the gate resources for his people.
Right. I mean,
that's
but if they could shut
that's the
down
problem
the
with
Earth,
him, is that he seems like what he's, I guess one of the many fatal flaws of his plan is that he essentially just wants to turn the paradigm of Earth and Mars, the oppressor, the belt, the oppressees. He just wants to flip that on its head, where the belt are the masters of the solar system, and Earth and Mars are under their heel. So then the thing that I think is interesting about that is he doesn't realize that that's a fatal flaw. Like, you can only do that to an oppressed people for so long. Like, it's eventually, maybe it takes 6 months, maybe it takes 60 years, but eventually that is an unsustainable pattern. The people that, unless you're just going to kill them all, they'll find a way to, they'll get a grudge, they'll get angry. Their children will grow up radicalized, and they will find a way to hurt you.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's, I'm not sure where they're going with it.
We'll see. That's it for the episode. Do we have any feedback?
We do have a spot of feedback. We're recording this just a few days after the Expanse dropped for everybody to enjoy. They dropped it early, like we thought they were going to. So they kind of, it released very early on Tuesday evening, like 8 or 9 o'clock. It was pretty early.
Yeah.
Not noon on Wednesday for sure.
No.
So we got ours out a little, and so it's only been relatively speaking, has been out a couple hours. We just got a single piece of feedback, but since it's going to be until episode 6 that we're able to consider more, I thought we'd go ahead and read it. This is from TB, and they want to talk about the recent, events of the Expanse being quote unquote canceled after season 6. Says, Oye Invalida. I hope I got that right. I'm both excited and dejected about the upcoming season. It's always great to have the most criminally underrated show back, but I'm really disappointed by the news that the 6th season may, be its last. When the news first broke, I assumed, like Jim, that the plan would be to cover an abbreviated book version of book 5 and 6 this season, and then have a breakneck final season covering the last 3 books, which gave me very unpleasant Game of Thrones vibes. Yeah. But recent comments from Ty Frank has made it pretty clear that the last 3 books won't be covered at all this time, and he includes a link below to a Screen Rant article, and I'm going to excerpt some quotes from that. As a completist and book fan, it's really disappointing that the last 3 books really offer another total escalation and recontextualization of the short story. Yikes. It would have been a challenge to capture the scope for sure, but I was really excited to see that last arc brought to screen. All that said, Babylon's Ashes is my favorite of the series since it's the first to offer POVs from the rest of the Rossi crew, especially Amos. I remember seeing that they'd have a POV and feeling an excitement that I hadn't had since discovering Jaime would become a POV in A Song of Ice and Fire. Having insight into inner thoughts sheds light into who they are and why in a way that you just don't get from someone else's POV. Yeah, obviously, they're complicated characters. Given what we know, what do you think is the best possible outcome for the next 2 seasons and beyond, and what are you really hoping to see revealed in the abbreviated wrap-up the story? Can't wait to take the ride with you. So the Screen Rant, Ty says that he says, we have what we think a very natural pause point. It's interesting phrasing. For the story after season 6. It'll feel like a satisfying end to the story we've been building over the first 5 seasons. I think one of the things that is sort of outmoded is this idea of being canceled. Alcon, the television group, our studio, is very committed to the intellectual property, adding, they have lots of plans. We'll see what happens after that. Outmoded idea of being canceled. Shit gets canceled all the time. But at one point, Star Wars was canceled. We got 3 movies, and that was it. There's no books, no more toys, no more even video games. And then we got a little bit of books, and a little bit of video games, and 20 years later, it got uncanceled and to mixed reviews.
There's a sci-fi series I know of that once got canceled before season 4, and then got picked up by a streaming service for the next 3 seasons.
And it used to be if your favorite show got canceled, that was it. But now you can shop it to another network. You might be able to pick up a picture deal. There could be limited series. It doesn't have to be just one. Look at all the collaborations like HBO and BBC and Sky and C+ Anal or whatever the studio that just above average anal. All this stuff that they do to kind of spread the cost around and to make some of these expensive shows like this happen. If season 6 ends and it's a nice pause point and there's still a lot of interest, the one thing that we had speculated that Ty pushes back, he says decisively in this interview that it's not about ratings, that the ratings were satisfactory for everyone involved. This is a kind of studio creative decision. If that's true and there's still appetite, I can't believe that people would walk away for more money, making more money.
What does that mean? This is a studio creative decision. If it's not about rating, like everybody's satisfied with the return they're getting for their money, then like the people making the show has just decided they're not having fun anymore. What is?
I don't know. I'm at a disadvantage because I haven't read the books, and I've seen some third-hand conversations around people that have, where I understand that it's kind of like they're not necessarily. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to accidentally spoil people. I'm afraid I might have been accidentally spoiled some, in at least some parts myself. But like, I'm gonna have to. I think we need to take Dan and Ty at their word that this is a good place to leave things, and maybe retool for future things. That no one is not, that there's. It seems like no one creatively involved in this process is really angry that this is happening. This is not being taken from them. That but it is hard to understand. It is hard to understand if you've got the 3 other books and you got a studio willing to do it and you got the money for it and you got the fan base. Why don't you do it? Yeah. But shit, why did James Cameron? Why is he taking 20 years to do more Avatars? And why is he doing 6 more of them? Like, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But I feel a lot better. Because I've gone through a lot of shows that got rushed out the door for various reasons. And it sucks to see something, you get the sandcastle 90% built and then someone just comes and kicks it over and ruins it to where it's like you can't even unkick it at this point. Like it's just destroyed. Like, it'd be better if it just got canceled and didn't go forward than didn't try to botch a last season or 2 or something. Mm-hmm. So like, I feel really good that this is going to be left in a good place so someone can pick it up in the future. When the money and maybe special effects technology and casting, because it's also, I wonder if it is a financial decision, because it seems likely that a lot of these people signed on to either 3 or 6 year contracts, and at the end of this latest 3 or 6 year cycle, they're going to want more money, and maybe that changes since this is already an expensive show, maybe that changes the calculus of it somewhat. I don't know, but I feel good that Dan and Ty feel good about it. Yeah,
I mean, I've read to the break point that I assume they're, to the end of book 6. They're talking about as a break point, a natural break point. I can't say too much about it. I thought there was at least one hanging thread that really deserved more answers. Maybe there are some implied answers, thinking about how that ends, that, maybe there are some implied answers in the book that maybe aren't fleshed out as well as they could be, that they could flesh out better in the show and make a more satisfying breakpoint. Mm-hmm. But if they do that, I then question, like, where does that leave a potential 7, 8, 9 season, or 7, 8, 9 book movie or whatever?
I feel like a lot of times that happens in standalone projects. Like, you watch the movie Alien, and that's a self-contained thing. It's over when it's done. But also, where the fuck did those engineers come from? Why were they hauling around these alien eggs? Where did they come from? Are they bioweapons? Sure. And like, other movies come along and take those plot points and move them. But like, Ridley Scott didn't have aliens in mind when he wrote Alien. So yeah. I don't know. Like, I think it's like we've gotten so used to 7 movies being greenlit and filmed in England and New Zealand, and it's a done deal, and we got part like that. I grew up in an era where it's like people would put stuff out, it would get canceled mid-season, and you'd never hear from it again. Like, we got this golden age where it's like, oh, this is hot IP and people are making money of it. Surely it's going to get finished, and I don't know. I think it will. Like, I think it will in our lifetime. It's just, why is it stopping? I don't know. I don't know. I wish I knew more about it, and I wish people could be more forthcoming about why, because it doesn't. All the stated reasons sound good, but they all seem slightly in conflict. Somebody's not happy with something, or they would keep it going. Like, they're not happy with what they can do with special effects, because if this is another kick of scale, and now you got to make fucking Star Wars, like you go from making some gritty, low, kind of mid-budget science fiction to the fucking Mandalorian, maybe they're just not happy with what they can do with their budget. Maybe it's a talent issue, because they got to pay Wes Chatham $60 billion an episode going forward. But it's got to be something, because no one shuts the money spigot off for no reason,
Yeah, no, that's the weird thing. I think we should go set up a goal on our Patreon account for like $50 million.
Yeah, you think that'd get it done?
If we can get to 50 million, we will guarantee at least one more season of The Expanse.
Yep, Jim will be cast as Jim Holden. I will be playing Amos, gone slightly to seed. Slightly.
I better start working out. Holy shit.
Your cat will be Naomi, and
okay,
we don't need Alex. They took care of Alex for us, so we don't have to worry about that.
True.
Cecily's 6 foot tall. She can be Bobby. We're good. We're good. $50 million. We can make at least an episode happen. So
for sure.
There you go. Screaming Derpox coming at you. Anyway, if you'd like to send us some feedback and let us know what you think the deal is, like I don't know. I don't know how much appetite we have to talk about this all season long, and it depends on whether we get new information, because right now it's like, I think it's like there's nothing more to say until there's a new piece of information. But expanse@baldmove.com is how you do that. You also got the forums.baldmove.com if you'd like to talk about the episodes in between our coverage. We'll see. But yeah, we got episode 5 coming out next week. The following week we'll be in the new year, and we'll be back to doing episode production, and we should have a big bag of feedback to consider then. But yeah, send it all in now. Expanse@baldmove.com. And that's it. That's it. Until next week with episode 5. I'm Aaron.
I'm Jim.
See you then.